Hello there and welcome to the Art Attack Greatest Tips and Tricks video. I've put together some of the very best art attacks ever, all totally brilliant ideas to make and do. So let's start right away with some fantastic tips on how you can add something a little bit extra to your art attacks. Not happy. Take a look at this picture, particularly the aeroplane. Now, you know, what do you think? It looks to me like that aeroplane is just hanging in mid-air and not even moving. But look what happens if I put just two lightly drawn lines like that and a couple of, well, C shapes between the lines. You can now clearly see which direction the plane is moving in. And these two lines show the direction and these little C shapes show the position the plane was in as it was moving along. And it sort of leaves a cartoon trail behind the plane. All right, let's have a look at this little chap here. What's his arm doing? Well, it's obvious, isn't it? He's just thrown the plane. But if I do two direction lines lightly drawn like that, you can see the direction his arm's moving in. And if I put these sort of upside-down C shapes, you can see the position his arm was in when it was moving. Again, it leaves a cartoon trail behind his arm. And, you know, this is a good tip to remember next time you're drawing cartoon characters that are moving. If you want to show which direction they're moving in, draw a cartoon trail behind them with two lightly drawn lines and some letter C's. All right, check this skateboarder out. If I draw two direction lines lightly drawn like that, and then two there, you can see she's now swerving around that corner. And again, I put these little sort of C shapes in there to show the position she was in. All right then, let's draw some cartoon trails in a cartoon. Let me introduce you to Gary the golfer. Gary has just teed off for the first time in the day and his ball has shot off in that direction. And what about his golf club? Well, if I do two curved direction lines like that and a couple of C's in there, you can now see that his golf club is swinging round. Gary's ball flies off into the woods. So look at this. If I do the ball going in this direction and it hits a tree, rebounds in this direction, just put two little C's in there, and then it flies off in this direction, leaving a cartoon trail going through the woods. Now, what do you think's happening here? Well, look at this. If I do two curved direction lines like that, you can see that the ball is bouncing down the stairs. That's another good tip to remember. If you want to do bouncing, do curved direction lines. Now, while Gary is playing golf, this little busy bee is enjoying flying through the falling autumn leaves. And, you know, leaves fall in a sort of haphazard way, so I'm just going to do wiggly direction lines like that. And the bee is dodging the leaves. So again, just do wiggly direction lines. Suddenly, Gary's golf ball flies up and hits the bee, smack on the nose. Just do a little explosion there, cartoon explosion, with a thump. Not very nice, is it? And the ball flies off in this direction, and unfortunately, the bee is out of control and flies off in that direction. Now, the bee starts to crash towards the earth, which is downwards. So I'll do the direction lines there, and the little C's in there. And the bee is spinning as he's going. He's so dazed. And again, if I do just curved spinning lines like that, curved direction lines, it looks like he's spinning. Now, we all know what happens when bees get angry. This one is very angry, and he decides to sting Gary. So he chases him through the woods. And look at this. Gary the golfer is leaving a cartoon trail that just winds around the trees. And there it is. Try it yourself. Next time you want to show what direction your cartoon characters are moving in, draw a trail behind them. I'm a cheat, and I don't mind admitting it, especially when it comes to drawing or painting things that take ages, like leaves on trees. Now, here's a picture of a tree that I've drawn, and that was the easy bit. Now to put on the leaves. And you know, when it comes to doing the boring bits, I don't mind cheating at all if it makes it easier and a lot more fun to do. And that's where this comes in. Any old paintbrush, preferably one with stiff bristles. And it's just a case of dipping it into some green poster paint, like that, and then just wiping off most of the paint. And the idea is to get your brush as dry as possible, so don't put any water on it. And then just hold it vertically above your picture and stab it down onto the paper. And look what happens. Look at that. Hundreds of leaves start to appear. It's a really good cheat, isn't it? It saves you drawing each leaf individually. And the more paint you put on and the more leaves you stab onto your picture, the thicker they get. Look at that. And it's also a good idea to have some dark paint. You could have some black or some dark brown, and just again wipe off the excess paint onto a piece of scrap paper and just start to dab or stipple some darker leaves around the bottom edge like this, just to give it a bit of shade around the bottom of the tree. And what about a lighter shade of paint, like a yellow or a white, and again just dab off the excess. On it goes, and just create some lighter leaves around the top like that, and there it is. And it didn't take any time at all. Not bad for a cheat, eh? And you can use this cheating technique to do lots of different bushes and leaves. Watch this. Just stabbing it on in exactly the same way. And you know, I'm all for cheating if it makes it easier. Looks just as good. Same down here. And just a couple of bits of black around the bottom of the bushes. Plants on the trellis. And if you dab on some colour, just little dabs of colour, and again, get all the excess colour off your brush first, then you can create flowers. Again, in the same way. Just dab them on, stipple them on, and on, and on. Try cheating yourself. Dab on some leaves and flowers with a dry brush. Have you got a set of these watercolour paints, but does your water always end up looking like this? And your pictures end up looking like this, a complete splodgy mess. Well, believe it or not, watercolours are one of the hardest art materials to use. Many times I've ended up with a complete mess like this because it's all run out of control. Well, here's some tips on how to get good results from your watercolour paints. First of all, draw a sketch on nice, thick drawing paper. Watercolours work best on thicker paper. And when you do your sketch, just do the outlines and the shapes. You don't need to put in any detail. And when it comes to mixing your paint, just mix it with water in the lid tray of your paint box. And if you haven't got one of those, then you can always use empty yogurt cartons that you've washed out. Now, the technique to watercolour painting is just simply to brush on the paint onto the paper and keep that wash going as quickly as you possibly can. Just keep it going down your paper like this, and try not to go back on yourself. Even if you miss a bit, just keep going and you get a nice smooth wash. And you don't have to colour it in absolutely perfectly. Just control that wash all the way down to the bottom, and then stop. Stop and allow it to dry. And you know, that is the secret to good watercolour paintings. Paint each section, then stop and allow it to dry before you move on to the next bit. That way, the paint won't all run into each other and go out of control. So I'm going to put this to one side, and that's exactly what I did with this picture. I did each section, I allowed it to dry before I moved on to the next section. And look at it, it's crisp, clear, and there are no runs because I controlled the paint. So when your background is dry, then you can add on a layer of shading. And to do this, you just mix your paint slightly thicker and add in touches of black. And then just paint it on to the dried background, and look at that, no runs at all. Just another little bit there, like that, just to finish off some windows. And here's another good tip. It's pointless doing a watercolour painting with dirty water because you'll get all your paint a dirty grey. So use one lot of water to wash your brush with and another lot of water to paint with. And just make sure your background layers are really dry, and then you can add in some finer detail. And I'm just blotting on some shadow in the bushes here. Not too much detail, just some extra shadow there. And then just real fine detail with a thinner brush. And there, and there, and there. And there you have a perfectly clear and crisp picture with no runs. Of course, if you do want your paint to run, to create an effect like reflections in water, then get loads of water onto your brush. And actually, this is where dirty water comes in handy, because you just make your paper really wet with that dirty water. See that? Just a bit more in there. Get a bit of the sky reflection in as well. Make my paper really wet. And then just start to put in some darker reflections. So here we go, let's try those trees. Yes, look at that. The paint's really out of control, running everywhere. Different colour. And there it is. Try it yourself, a watercolour painting. But don't forget, let all the bits dry before you move on to the next bit and keep the paint in control. Take a look at this picture. There's something missing. Watch this. That's better. A shadow. And that's a good tip to remember. Put shadows into your pictures and make them look more realistic. For a start, it makes things look as if they're standing firmly on the ground instead of floating around in mid-air. Now, take a look at this girl. She looks as if she's floating around in mid-air at the moment, but a quick squiggle shadow, and now her feet are planted very firmly on the ground. Of course, if you do want things to float around in mid-air, like this girl, then it's just a case of drawing the shadow some distance away from the bottom of the object, or in her case, from her feet, and now she's flying around in mid-air. Now, when you are drawing shadows, you have to decide which direction to draw them in. And here's another good tip. Shadows are cast away from the light. I'll show you what I mean. Just take a look at these balls. Now, this ball here on the left, let's pretend the light is coming from above the ball from, say, the sun or a lamp or a bulb, and it's shining down in this direction, so the shadow will be cast away from the light, so the ball's shadow will be underneath the ball. Now, the light is shining on this ball in this direction, so this ball's shadow will be cast away from the light in this direction. Now, let's try this ball. Let's put the sun up here this time, and again, it shines in that direction, so again, the ball's shadow is cast away from the light. Now, I'm just going to draw a little lamp down here, little light bulb in there next to this ball, and if I shine the light in this direction, then this ball's shadow is cast in this direction, but because that lamp is quite low to the ground, the shadow is very long. And that's why your shadows are long at the end of the day when the sun is going down and it's very low in the sky. So, OK, let's put some shadows into these cartoons. Now, here's Nick. He's taking his dog for a walk at night. The lamp is shining down in this direction, so Nick's shadow will be cast in that direction, and so will the dog's. Suddenly, they hear a noise from down the alleyway. Nick shines his torch down the alleyway, and it's only a cat. But Nick's torch is quite low to the ground, so the cat's shadow is cast away from the light in this direction, and it's a very long shadow. And not only does it go across the ground, but it's so long, it goes up the wall. And don't forget, shadows go up things as well as across the ground. Now, Nick's dog hates cats, so it goes zooming off after the cat. Nick is tugged along by the lead and he goes flying through the air. So his shadow is still cast in this direction because of the lamp, but his shadow is no longer touching his feet because he's flying through the air. And look at that, he's left the ground. So the dog goes off in pursuit of the cat. Nick is dragged along. Now, you've got the moonlight up here shining down on the dog, so the dog's shadow is cast in this direction, and because Nick is still flying through the air, let's do his shadow away from his body. There he is, still flying through the air. Eventually, they catch up with the cat, and Nick's dog pins the cat up against the wall, shines Nick's torch on the cat, and again, because the torch is very low to the ground, the cat's shadow is very long. But the cat is now leaning right up against the wall, so the shadow goes up the wall, but it's still a long shadow. Now, the cat begs for mercy, offers the dog a sweet, and because he's a greedy dog, he accepts the sweet. And don't worry, it's a happy ending because they become great friends. In fact, they become such good friends that they start to take moonlit walks together. And there's the moon. It's really low in the sky, so the shadows are nice and long, and they're going off in this direction, away from the light. Try it yourself. Make your drawings a lot more realistic and put shadows in them. Yeah, I really enjoyed doing that tip about shadows. Well, next up, I've got 4 brilliant things for you to make from bits and bobs lying about the house. Let's start with a great trick to turn this into this. Take a look at this. How do you create a picture that looks 3D? Make a 3D see-through picture. Look at that. And believe it or not, it's made from 3 separate see-through pictures. Come and have a look at this. Now, I'm going to start by showing you how to make one see-through picture. Take a piece of cardboard that you've cut from the side of a cardboard box and place an A4 size piece of paper on top of the cardboard and draw all the way around the paper so that you've got the shape of the paper on your cardboard. Then take a ruler and place it underneath the top line of your A4 shape and draw a line underneath the ruler like that, and then place the ruler down that side edge and again draw another line along the inside edge like that, and do the same all the way around, placing your ruler inside the original line that you drew and draw another line inside the ruler like that. So you have a frame shape that is A4 sized and is a ruler thick. And then cut it out. So you have something that looks like that. And then do the same thing again. You need 2 of these frame shapes. And then take some glue and just smear the glue all round your frame shape. Now, it's very important that you smooth this glue on nice and evenly. You could use PVA glue for this. I'm just doing it really quickly to show you, but you can take your time over it. And then take some cling film. And take the cling film out of the box like this. And this is the good bit. Just very carefully place it on one side of the frame like this, and then roll the cling film out into the glue across the frame like that. Press it down into the glue, and then just snip off the excess cling film. And the good thing is you don't need to use much cling film for this. And then the tricky bit, very gently smooth all of those creases and wrinkles out of the cling film just by gently pressing on the frame and just stretching the cling film out like that. And then put it to one side and take your other frame and do exactly the same. Smear the glue on, PVA or glue stick, and put it on nice and evenly. As usual, I'm rushing these things. just to show you, and then take your cling film frame, very careful, don't want to put my finger through it, and just pop your other frame on top, press it down to sandwich the cling film between the two cardboard frames like this. And then leave it to one side to dry, and it's a very good idea to put books all the way around the frame to press it down really firmly and sandwich that cling film. And when it's dry, cut off the excess cling film from around the edges. But while you're waiting for it to dry, draw the design for your picture. You could practice it on your A4 piece of paper. And it's a good idea to do a very simple picture, just a cartoon image, nothing too fancy. And see what I've done here, the reason I'm using the paper is I've made a few mistakes. So you can alter those mistakes. It doesn't matter, because what you're going to do is when your cling film frame is dry, you place it over the paper and trace the image onto the cling film. Now, you need permanent markers for this. I'll tell you what else will work. You're not going to believe this. A ballpoint pen. But you have to be very careful that you don't pierce the cling film. And just very carefully do your image. I'm just going to, again, go around the shapes just to show you. I'm not going to put too much detail in at this stage because I'm going to paint it in a minute, and then we can put the detail in afterwards. So get the basic shapes in there. Just make it nice and cartoony. I love doing pictures like this, just get in there like that, not too much detail. And when you've got your basic shapes in, then just decorate the frame. Give it a good old wood finish. So what I'm going to do, you've seen me do this many times before, I'm going to do some wispy lines on the frame just to give it a wood grain finish. And a few more wispy lines down here. And a bit more wood up there. And this is great fun to do and very easy to create a really woody effect. And when you've got your wooden frame, hold it together by banging in some nails, not with a hammer, but with a silver pen. Watch this. Just going to draw in some nails around the edges of the frame there. And you can get this same effect if you just use an ordinary pencil. And then paint your picture. Now, I've only done the outline, so I'm going to paint it and then put the detail on. Paint it using acrylic paint or poster paint. But poster paint won't stick to your cling film unless you mix it with a bit of washing up liquid. Good tip, that. I just mixed it with some washing up liquid here. And now I'm just going to very carefully paint it onto the cling film. Right on there. A lot of paint on the brush. And you paint the whole of your picture in the same way, and when you've painted it, you'll have something that looks like this. Look at that, just remove my picture, and there it is, a see-through picture. And if you want to make a 3D see-through picture, it's simple, you make 3 of them. There's one, and I just put the other one on top of it, there's 2, and finally, there's the 3rd one. And if you just stick them together with sticky tack, you can even move them around and slot them in and out of each other to create a different picture each time. And the more cardboard boxes you get and the more cardboard you cut out, you can just keep adding more and more pictures until you have a 3D see-through picture. Do you have any secret notes or photos or private letters that you want to hide? What you need is a secret file to keep them in. And where are they? Well, they're not in here. Actually, they're in here in a secret compartment. Look at that. Come and have a look at this. Take 2 A4 size pieces of paper and place them onto a good stiff piece of cardboard box card, draw around them, and then cut those out so you have 2 A4 size pieces of cardboard. Then take one of them and one of your pieces of paper, place your paper on top of your cardboard like that, and then tape it to the cardboard. Now, it's very important that you only tape it down 3 edges, the top edge, the side edge, and the bottom edge. And the way to tape it is just put your tape on lengthways like that, and just tuck it over around the edge of the cardboard. It can be a bit fiddly to do, so take your time and do it in small pieces of tape at a time. But when you've done 3 edges, the top one edge and the side, you will have a paper pocket that opens down one of the long edges like that. Then place your pocket down and take some PVA glue, mix it in equal parts with water, your PVA school glue, and slop it onto the front of your paper and card pocket and just simply paste some newspaper onto the front, just little strips of newspaper. Now, it doesn't matter if it's not very neat, because if you get wrinkles in that newspaper like that, perfect. It gives your secret file a nice wrinkly leather effect. I'm just slopping this on here. You don't need to be neat with it, but whatever you do, don't glue up that side open pocket. Do both sides of your paper and card pocket, and when you're finished, you will have a nice wrinkly pocket that's nice and stiff. And again, I'll say it, whatever you do, don't paste over that open edge. And then take some poster paint or acrylic paint, a nice rich brown colour, and paint your pocket. And just slopping it on there into all those nooks and crannies and all those wrinkles, and you should get a great leather effect. And when you've done the front and the back, you'll have something that looks like this. Look at that. That's one of your secret compartments. And when you've painted it, if you want to give it this real shiny leather effect, when the paint is dry, completely cover it in PVA glue and it'll look a real mess. But when the glue dries, it goes hard and shiny and see-through and gives this great leather effect. Now do exactly the same with both paper and card pockets, and you have the front and the back of your secret file. Then just place them side by side with the open pocket edges running down the middle like that, and make sure the paper side is on the inside and the cardboard sides are on the top, and then cut a strip of material to fit down the middle, just to fit across that gap down the middle. Now your material needs to be the same height as your file, and it needs to be wide enough to overlap on both pieces of card by about a ruler's width. That's absolutely perfect. Now, you can use almost any type of material for this. I've actually cut a scrap strip of material from an old Art Attack sweatshirt. Red's perfect for a secret file, but you can use any plain colour. In fact, you can, if you want to, use thick paper or thin card. Now, place your material down the middle like that and just cut some triangles of material. It's best to use material, I think. Cut some triangles, place them in the corner, because this will give your secret file a real professional finish. And when you're happy with that position, just pull the two pieces about 1 centimetre apart, just to create a gap down the middle, and then glue everything firmly in place. Make sure you get that gap down the middle. Glue it all in place using nice, strong PVA glue. And when you've done that, look at this. You will have your secret file with your two secret compartments. And see that? They're joined in the middle by the material. And it looks very professional. And then close it up and just take a ball of sticky tack. And what I'm going to do is just place that there, because the idea is you pierce a hole through each of those sides into the sticky tack, because I don't actually want to damage anything underneath, just using a sharp pencil for this. And then do another hole about 4 or 5 centimetres away from that first hole, and they're about 2 centimetres in from the edge of your file. And then close your file up like that and use those holes as guides to pierce some holes into the back piece right through, so you've got 4 holes, and you can use those holes to thread some ribbon or string through to keep your file closed. And when you've done that, it looks like that. Look at that. I've threaded some ribbon through there. And see what else I've done here? I've used a gold pen to just really finish it off along these edges and around the holes. And on the front, I've painted Top Secret, because of course it is. And then you can open it up and use it to keep lots of things inside. What have I got in here? Let me see. I don't want to show you too many secrets now. Postcards, photographs, letters, some certificates in there. That's a good idea. And as for my secrets, I keep those all in my secret compartment in there. See that? Look at that. And no one will ever know that they're in there. In fact, I think I'm going to put them back in case anyone sees it. Try it yourself. Keep your secrets in your own top secret file. Hey, have you ever wondered how they design those fantastic futuristic jets that you get in space movies, cartoons, or even computer games? They build a model first. So why not design your own futuristic fantasy flyer? It's dead easy. Come and have a look at this. Now, the secret weapon is these things, wedge-shaped boxes that have got one end narrower than the other. And you can get lots of boxes like this. You can get chocolate boxes, sweet boxes, and you can get loads of these chip boxes anywhere. So take one of these wedge-shaped boxes and place it onto a good strong piece of cardboard box card, and then just draw a wing on either side. Now, do nice, chunky, triangular wings. Don't do flimsy, long ones. They don't need to be too long. The idea is to make this look like a jet, not one of those big passenger planes. And then take that away and just join those two wings up like that, and then cut the wing out. And you can tidy it up when you cut it out so that it looks nice and straight and something like that. Then take a ruler and place the ruler along the line and just bend that wing up slightly on one side and up slightly on the other side like that. And then turn it over. Bring your box back in and place the wing on the top so that the wings slope down slightly at the side of the box. And that's your basic wing and body structure for your plane. For the nose, take a paper or a plastic cup and put that on the front. And for the jets at the back, how's about cutting a loo roll tube in half and placing those on the back? And for the tail, you could always cut out a triangular piece of cardboard box card, nice and strong, and slot that between the two at the back. And then tape the whole thing in place. And you'll have something that looks like that. Look at that. Now, the key to this is take your time. Make it nice and strong. Use lots of strong tape or good strong glue and do it as neatly as you can. So that's the basic structure of your plane. But to turn it into a fantasy fighter, you need these things, rubbish tubes. And you can get cardboard tubes, plastic tubes. And the idea is to stick these all over the length of your plane. But don't forget, you're the designer, so you decide where they go. But I'll give you some ideas. How's about taking some of these cardboard sweet tubes and putting those underneath the wing like that? That looks like jets, and it also strengthens the wing if you tuck it into the side there. And then you could also take some of these cardboard loo roll tubes, split them down the middle like that, and just place them all over the body of your plane, and it'll make it look really modern and high-tech, because these do look like extra fuel tanks and extra jets. The more the merrier. And I think I'll put another jet down the top there, and then you could turn it over and put some little fuel tanks or jets on the wing. And see what I'm using here? Old ballpoint pens. You know me, I don't ever throw anything away. I put another one on the other wing like that. And the more bits of rubbish that you put on, the better. Just a case of testing things to see if they look good. That looks good. Another bottle top there. And I've cut this bit from an old egg box, and I'll just put that on there, and that can be the cockpit of my plane. And around the back here, I've cut another little wing, and I'm just going to stick that under the jets for the back bit. Now, you can see what I've done here. I've stuck this all together using little bits of tape, but you should use lots of tape or good strong glue and do it as neat as you can. And when you've got it to this stage, you can paint it. Now, you can paint it using acrylic paint or poster paint. If you're going to use poster paint, it's a good idea to mix in a little bit of PVA glue, so then your paint will stick to all these plasticky bits on your plane. And of course, you're the designer, so you paint it any colour you want. I'm doing white here as a base colour, but you can do it camouflage, RAF colours, space colours, whatever you want. And then you can add on detail. And when it's finished, it'll look brilliant. And here's mine. See that? I think that looks absolutely Fantastic. Look at that. And I've drawn on other little bits of detail with felt tip pen, and I've stuck on more little bits of rubbish, and it looks brilliant. Look at that. There's a felt tip pen lid. I was going to throw that away, but I've kept that. And how's about some plastic drinking straws as tubes and jets, and I've coloured that with a silver pen. I've done the same on the cockpit, silver pen. Other bits of detail with black pen, painted on some signs, painted on my initials, and look at the back, more drinking straws, and I've painted those with silver pen. And you know, I think that looks as if it's come straight out of the latest science fiction movie. And of course, you're the designer, so you can paint it any colour you like. What about this? Bright pink with silver glitter stars. It's a sort of spice jet. Or what about this one? This is more of a demon fighter. Look at that. It's black. I've painted on some fire, and it looks as if it's roaring through the skies. Try it yourself. Design your own futuristic fantasy flyer. There it is. Got it. I've just squashed, well, it's a sort of squash thingy, really, isn't it? The trouble is, they get absolutely everywhere. I think I got one in here earlier. Let's see. Ooh, yep, another squashed thingy. In fact, I've been squashing thingies all day. Look at that. Not a pretty sight. Come and have a look at this. Now, to make a squashed thingy, just take a piece of drawing paper and on it draw a splat shape. It's a sort of blobby, wobbly flower shape, really. Just to all splat it out like that. And then on it, draw some splattered facial features. Now, make it look as if it's been really trodden on. So do those facial features all over the place. They don't have to look like real features, because after all, this is just a squashed, well, thingy. Look at that, really gruesome. Tongue hanging out and everything there. That's it. That's really splattered out. And then you can add in other things like little arms. Again, splayed out like that. And little legs. And you can put other bits and pieces on if you want to. A little leg out there. I think one out there as well. And now it really does look very squashed. And then colour it in. Now start by colouring it in a light colour to start with. And it's a good idea just to make sure that your outline is dry before you colour it in. I'm all right because everything dries really quickly in my studio lights. So hot. And then when you've coloured all of those splats in the light colour, just take a darker colour and just go round the outside edge of all of those splats, just to make it look slightly 3D. And you make those splats look really splodgy. And what this is doing really is just putting a shadow around the edge and making it look 3D. And now it really does look squashed. And then if you colour in the arms, legs and all the other little bits and pieces that you draw, cut it out, you will have something that looks like that. A squash thingy. Or you could try a different coloured squash thingy, like that. Or what about adding on some different features, like that squash thingy? And what do you do with them? Well, you place them somewhere so that they look as if they've been squashed. You can place them in your books. They make great bookmarks. You can cover them in sticky back plastic and squash them with your cup. Perfect to protect the furniture. You can even stick them on the back of your school file. Ouch. And what about this? Make some extra blobby bits, put some sticky tack on the back, carefully stick it to your window, and it looks as if he's flown into the window and really splattered. Try it yourself. A squash thingy. Ugh. Brilliant. And once you've made a squash thingy, you never know where it might turn up. Ha, got it. Well, coming up, I've got some more excellent ideas to turn your pictures into something even more special, like these fantastic 3D effect pictures. Great 3D patterns. It's a sort of 3D wave that plays tricks on your eyes. Try this. Take a piece of paper and just draw some wavy lines running from top to bottom using a black pen or pencil. The idea is to just get those lines waving in any direction like that, and then draw some wavy lines going across the paper in the opposite direction like that. So when you've actually finished it, you've sort of created a wobbly checkered pattern like that. And then in each of those wobbly boxes, just draw a sort of wobbly X shape. It's a sort of wobbly cross, really, isn't it? Like that. And then another one in there like that. And go round all the boxes, just drawing wobbly crosses or wobbly X shapes. And do all the boxes in the same way. When you've finished, you'll have something that looks like that. And you notice I haven't done any wobbly crosses in the outside boxes. You'll see why in a minute. Then take a pencil or a crayon or a felt pen, any colour you like, but you must have two versions of the same colour, a darker version and a lighter version. I'm using blue. You can use anything you like, red, green, but you need two versions of the same colour. And then you need to take each of these boxes individually and colour in the two side triangles facing each other. Now do the first triangle with the darker version of your colour. So just colouring mine in with my blue. If you used green, you'd have dark green in this triangle. And then the other side triangle facing it, I'm going to do with my lighter blue, like that. And then the triangle at the top, I'm going to leave white. And that bottom triangle, I'm going to colour in with the black pen I used to draw the thing with in the first place. So I'll just repeat that for you. It's the two side triangles with a light and dark version of your colour. The top triangle is white and this bottom triangle is black. And do the same on all the wobbly boxes. The dark version of your colour, the light version, leave the top white and the bottom one is black. Go around all the boxes doing all the triangles in the same way, and when you're finished, it'll look like this. And you notice I haven't coloured any of these outside boxes in again. That's because you cut them off. And when you cut them off, you'll have something that looks like that. Look at that, a 3D wavy pattern. And to make it even more wavy, if you just roll one of the sides gently like that, not too tightly, and then roll the other side just to curve it up slightly, like that. And then if you take a piece of backing card or paper, any colour you like, but a good contrasting colour to your pattern, and then just place your 3D wavy pattern over the card, flip it over, put a couple of dabs of glue on, and then position it above your card, and before you press it down, just push the two side edges in like that so you create a wave in the middle of your pattern, and then slam it down and trap it onto your backing paper. And when the glue's stuck, there you have a 3D wavy pattern. And of course you could always experiment with different ways of sticking down your pattern onto your backing board. I've pushed the two side edges in a different direction on this one, and look at that wave in the middle. Hey, I've discovered a great way of making your artwork literally jump off the page. Crease the clothing. Come and have a look at this. Take a page of newspaper and on it draw a person, any person you like, in any shape you like. It can be a sports personality, it can be maybe a pop personality, but it's a good idea to just draw it in sausage shapes first, like this. I always do this, just to get the right position. And you can just make these adjustments as you go until you're happy with the shape. There it is, I'm just drawing a guy sort of dancing, in sort of a dancing position. And when you're happy with the general shape, then put some clothes on your person. Now I'm going to put a baseball cap on, put it on backwards so he looks really trendy. If he's dancing, he could be in a disco, couldn't he? So I'll put his disco shirt on there. And maybe I'll put some shorts on him. Now hold on, you may be thinking, why has he got shorts on if he's in a disco? Well, maybe it's a hot and sweaty disco, or maybe it's a beach disco. And I think I'll put some socks on him down here like that, and some Nice big trainers. And the great thing about using newspaper like this is you can just make these adjustments as you go in. It doesn't have to be neat, but just get a nice shape. And I think I'll just put a bit more detail on his fingers there, maybe on that side as well, like that. And when you're happy with the general position and all the clothes, just cut all of these bits out. Now, the idea is to cut all of the bits out separately so that you can use them as templates to draw around onto other different coloured pieces of paper. So, OK, I'm going to try the shirt first. Now, if it's a disco shirt, we need some disco-y paper. And I've got this scrap of wrapping up paper. There it is. And I've always got these scraps of wrapping up paper that I save over from Christmas. And you never know when you need them in a heart attack. And I'm just going to use this shirt that I drew on the newspaper as a template just to draw around very roughly onto the wrapping up paper, like that. And the idea is to cut that shape out so that you have something that looks like that. And I think I'll do the shorts. Maybe what I'll do is I'll use a comic for the shorts. They are quite comical, the shorts, aren't they? So I'll put onto an old comic I've got there, just put that newspaper pair of shorts. Actually, I wouldn't mind a pair of comic strip shorts myself. They'd look rather good, wouldn't they? Just draw around them like that, just roughly, and remove the newspaper, cut the shorts out, and you have something that looks like that. And the idea is to do the same with all of those bits of newspaper, just use them as templates to draw around on coloured paper and cut them out. Then take some PVA glue, you know, the white school glue that you get in the squidgy bottles. I'm always using this stuff. I think it's really versatile, this stuff. And then just brush it on to all of the individual pieces. I'm just doing this really quickly to show you. You can take a lot more time over it, do it a lot more neatly, and just brush it onto the top of the shirt and the shorts and all the bits of the body. And it looks a bit of a mess at the moment, but when you've done all the bits, if you just put them to one side and leave them to dry, do it separately though, so they don't all stick together. When they're dry, look what happens to the PVA glue. Yep, it goes all hard and stiff and shiny like that, and it gives it a really good finish, a good effect there. The problem is all these bits are still a little bit flat, so the only thing to do is crunch them up. Just crunch them up, put creases back into those clothing. Now I know you're probably sitting there going, oh no, he's just done that, now he's creasing it up, but it's a great effect. Just crunch them up and do the same with all the other bits, and just pull them up and crunch them up like that, and then separate them. And it's a good idea at this stage to put them onto a piece of thick paper or card as a backing card, any colour you like, something that looks good as a backing. And then it's just a case of piecing them back together again in the original shape, like a jigsaw. It's quite difficult to do this, it's quite difficult to grab them because they're all shapes, they're all sticking up. But don't flatten them because you get this great 3D effect there. That's it, he's back in his dance position now, quite happy with that. And when you're happy with the position, just glue it down. Put a couple of dabs of glue very loosely on the back of each piece. And whatever you do, when you're gluing them down, don't press them down, otherwise you'll flatten each piece and you'll lose the 3D effect. And look at that, it really does jump right off that backing board. And I've even added in some musical notes with felt tip pen. And see what I've done there? I've given him some tin foil shades. Try it yourself. Creased art. Good effect, isn't it? And as I say, you can do any person you like. What about a sports personality there? Look at him all creased up, kicking the ball. Or how about a superhero? And look at the creases in that cape. And there she is, the craggy old witch, all creased up. Try it yourself. 3D creased art. When you're creating a picture, do you sometimes have difficulty trying to decide which art materials to use? I mean, there are so many of them. Pens, pencils, crayons, wax crayons, chalks, pastels, coloured paper, white paper. And yet, they're all good for different things. Well, here's a bit of fun. Why not use all of them? A sort of mixed materials picture. OK, what about the good old pencil? Now, the great thing about pencils is you can just sketch very quickly with them and put in rough shapes of your picture. And then when you've actually finished your picture, if you're not too happy with the shapes, you can alter them. You can even rub the pencil out at the end. And what about the good old paint? Well, the obvious thing that's good about paint is that you can cover big areas with colour very quickly. And I'm just using ordinary watercolour paint. Of course, the disadvantage to paint is you've got to wait for it to dry. That should be okay, it's quite hot in here anyway. That's it. Okay, what about marker pens? Well, again, the obvious advantage to marker pens is that you can cover big areas very quickly. And if you use permanent markers, they go over absolutely anything. And as well as covering big areas, you can also do fine detail. See if you can guess what I'm doing. Yeah, you've got it. And what about these things? Water-soluble pencils. Well, the great thing about water-soluble pencils is you can just use them as normal pencils. And it's just a case of drawing with them normally. Or you can brush on some water and get a really watery, well, watercolour effect actually. Water turns them to watercolour. And it's great for atmospheric pictures like this or watery effects. And what about one of my favourites, chalk. Great for just adding highlights to things, just down the edge of things where the light is shining. Just picking out those highlights there. Another thing chalk's great for, of course, is smudging. And finally, let's not forget the good old ballpoint pen. Great for doing fine detail. And there it is. Try it yourself, a mixed materials picture. Wow, a brilliant idea and great fun to do, creating a picture using watered down layers of paint. Now for the first layer, I'm going to use an awful lot of water and not much paint, because I'm going to paint the distance in my picture. And the further you get into the distance, then the more water you put into your paint. And there's hardly any paint in this at all. And let's just see if you can guess what it is I'm painting. And before you go on to the next layer, let that first layer dry. And when it's completely dry, put on your second layer of paint, this time slightly thicker, slightly less water, and do the middle distance. So here we go. guess what it is yet. And when you've done that, again, wait for it to dry. And for the foreground, lots more paint and less water. So here we go. More paint there. And then I'm just going to use a slightly smaller brush to put in just a little bit of detail in that foreground, not too much there. Yeah, I'll bet you can guess by now what it is I'm doing. And again, I'm just going to let that layer dry. And at each stage, I'm just putting in slightly more paint and slightly more detail the nearer the picture gets to you, and waiting for the stage before it to dry. And finally, some pure black paint, no water, for some fine detail. There it is. Try it yourself. A layered, watered down picture. Amazing what just adding water can do. You know, one of the hardest things of all to draw is ourselves. People are just so complicated. But to finish up, I've got some top tips on making loads of different types of faces. And you'll have a laugh with these art attacks, because they all make me look a bit daft. Check this lot out. And isn't it weird, old age? You know, how we change looks from when we're very young to when we're very old. Now look, do you want to have a real laugh today? All right, I'll let you into a secret. Don't tell anyone. Take a look at that photograph. Guess who that is? Yeah, you've guessed it. It's me when I was 8. Now don't worry, because this is still me now. But the weird thing is, what am I going to look like when I'm really old? Well, try this. Draw a cartoon or a caricature of yourself. Doesn't need to be brilliant, just a rough one, and add some instant old age. All right, I don't know whether I want to do this, but here we go. Let's take off my hair. Ouch, that really hurts. Look at that. I'm going to take my hairline away, because that's what tends to happen to us fellas when we get a bit older. We tend to start losing our hair. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my hairline up a bit. What, a bit further? All right, up we go. Now, let's not go too far, eh? I don't want to be completely bald. So let's bring that down there, like that. And then I'll probably end up with grey hair, because I guess that happens to all of us, doesn't it? Boys and girls. There we go, lots of grey hair on there. I'm still keeping some on the top. I'm not going to do myself completely bald. Maybe next series of Art Attack, but not this time. And then I think what I'll do is I'll do some silver eyebrows. All right. Well, you said you wanted to have a laugh. There we go. I'm not laughing so much now, though, looking at this. And what else happens? Oh, you tend to get a lot of wrinkles and creases in your skin, don't you? So I'll do these frown lines. There, nice and deep. And I'll probably get some crow's feet around my eyes. I've got those now when I laugh. And then some bags under my eyes. Yeah, I get those when I'm doing Art Attack. And a couple more wrinkles there. And you know those lines at the side of your mouth when you're smiling? Well, they tend to get longer and deeper when you get older. Oh, look at this. This is me in Art Attack Series 26. I think I'll go home now. And I'll tell you what I think I'll do. When I get a bit older, Don't laugh. I think I'll grow a distinguished moustache. So I'm going to do that in silver crayon again, because it will probably be grey by then. And just do it coming down there. There, like that. And then, oh, I don't think I like this at all. And I think I'll end up with a beard as well. A lot of older people have beards, don't they? Well, the fellas do anyway, not so much the women. Like that. And that'll be in grey hair, I would imagine, or grey stubble. And what else? Oh, you know what may happen when I get a bit older? My eyesight might start to fail, so I may have to have reading glasses. There you go, on there like that. And can you imagine me doing Art Attack looking like this? With me red Art Attack shirt on. Look rather stupid really, wouldn't it? Put that round there. And there it is. That is probably how I'm going to look when I'm a lot older. Ugh. And you know what the weird thing is? Looking at that, you know, this is exactly how my dad looks now, except he hasn't got a beard or moustache. That's a worrying thought, isn't it? You know when you get your hair cut, do you ever wonder what you'd look like with a completely different hairstyle? Well, try this. Take a photograph of yourself that's quite face-on, so you're looking at the camera. I think I'll use that one. And then take a piece of really thin drawing paper, or better still, tracing paper. Well, you can use greaseproof paper for this. And then simply trace your face. And the idea is to just draw around the shape of your face, but leave out your hair. When it comes to your hairline, just draw around the hairline. It's just the shape of your face you're looking for. And then cut that head shape out so you have something that looks like that. And then place that onto a piece of white paper and then use it as a template to draw the shape of your head onto the white paper. So what you're looking for really is a drawing of the shape of your face, but without any hair on it. And you know what we're going to do? We're going to draw a new hairstyle on it. Or better still, if you draw several head shapes onto your drawing paper, we can design several new hairstyles. So, okay, I'm going to start with a new hairstyle for myself that's quite radical. It's quite outrageous. I've always wondered what I'd look like with really curly hair. And this is a lot cheaper than getting a perm that goes wrong. Oh, I don't know about this. Look at this. Now that's looking a bit like it's looking a bit like a tennis player, isn't it? I'm not sure whether I'm keen on that. Okay, let's move on to this one. What about something a little bit shorter? You know, sort of pop stars style, where it's slightly feathered around there like that. You've got these little layers here. I bet that looks pretty good. Okay, let's try a couple of other ones. What about one of these longer hairstyles where a lot of pop stars wear these hairstyles as well, where the hair's really flicked over the fringe like that. Or maybe something really crazy. Oh, I know. Oh, you laugh at this one, look at this. What about a good old-fashioned punk hairstyle? Actually, that is quite old-fashioned now, isn't it? You know, where they gel the hair up on the top like that. Or maybe even something really crazy. Oh, I know. What about a heavy rocker hairstyle where it's really long at the top there? And don't laugh too much at this one, because I used to have very long hair like this when I was at school, because I thought one day I was going to be a rock star. I'll tell you something else you could try. If you go into a fancy dress party, you could always try a fancy dress hairstyle on yourself to see what you'd look like at the party. Just a bit of a clown hairstyle there. And then when you've done that, colour the hairstyles in. In fact, you could give yourself a different hair colour and cut that face shape out in the middle. And then it's just a case of placing your photograph down and trying on your new hairstyles. Ah, look at that! I don't know about a tennis player. That looks like a hairdresser, doesn't it? Oh, I don't like that. Let's get rid of that. What about the pop star look? Looks more like a footballer to me, that. Okay, try this. Let's see what that looks like. Oh, that's not bad. That quite suits me, doesn't it? Don't know about the colour, though. It's more gingery than my hair. Mind you, if you think that colour doesn't suit me, what do you think of this? The pink punk. Who said it suits you? Here, tell you what, I think this one really does suit me. Look at this. Yeah, and don't laugh, because I really did have hair that long when I was at school. And let's try on the fancy dress one. Let's see that. Yeah, that's quite good as well. Try it yourself. Give yourself a completely new hairstyle with a hairstyle identikit. Try this. It's great fun to do. Turn yourself into an alien. Now start by drawing a very simple picture of yourself, like this one I've done. Doesn't need to be brilliant or anything. Or you could always trace a picture of someone else from a magazine and then simply turn it into an alien by altering all the features. Just make it up as you go along. Take each feature on the face and do something really horrible with it. Now I'm going to start with my eyes here, and I'm going to make them really sticky out and bulbous, so it looks really horrible. You can have some great fun doing this. And instead of giving myself 2 eyelids on each eye, I'm going to give myself 4 eyelids, like that. And maybe you don't have eyebrows, maybe they're just like bony plates that go up like this. Just make it as gruesome as you can. What about my nose? Oh, I know. I think I'll make it all wrinkly and crinkly, like that. Maybe with huge nostrils. Looking quite spooky. And my mouth, instead of 2 lips, let's give me 4 lips. And as for my teeth, well, I think I'll give myself fangs and pointed teeth like that. And what about my ears? I know what I'll do. I'll give myself bat ears, so they're all wrinkly and crinkly like a bat. And the great thing about turning yourself into an alien is you just make it up as you go along. Now, I think what I'll do is I'll make my face really bony and give me a real bony chin like that. And for the top of my head, how's about a real fat head up there like that? But that looks like there's all brains bursting out inside there. And instead of hair, I think I'll give myself some scales at the top. And as for my skin, well, I think I'll make that scaly as well. Put some scales in there. And I'm going to make my pupils really slanted and slitty, and I'm going to make them go the wrong way. See the way they're slanting like that? Well, that looks pretty horrible, doesn't it? And I'm going to do a really long, wrinkly neck. Now, I think I'm going to start colouring bits of it in, so I think I'll do my eyes in a real alien red. Watch this. And my skin, I think I'll make it a Martian-y green colour. Mind you, the question is, are Martians really green? In fact, do they really exist? If I was a Martian, I'd be green. And then just rub out a few of those little pencil lines there that are showing. And there it is. There's me as an alien. What do you mean it's an improvement? Try it yourself. Turn yourself or someone else into an alien. Yeah, see what I mean about me looking a bit funny? Well, that's it for this video, and what a great collection of tips and tricks, eh? Well, I hope you've enjoyed it. I know I have. See you next time. Ta-ra!